The crack in the observation glass ran corner to corner, thin as a hair, and Vex 9 found himself staring at it instead of at the golden eyes across his own borrowed desk. 17 incident reports stacked between them, a medical bay past capacity, and the cadet responsible sitting perfectly still in the chair beside him, hands folded, waiting for a question that hadn't been asked yet. Working for someone, Cadet Kane, military, intelligence, anyone outside this academy. That question was still hours away. First, Vex 9 made himself remember how ordinary the morning had been before it stopped being ordinary. 47 cadets, 12 species, one lecture on multi-species combat dynamics. Vex 9 had survived 3 wars and expected the session to be unremarkable. The Corvan cracked their double joints out of habit. The Theshan twins traded a look that needed no words. The Bruthans took up 2 rows apiece just sitting down. In the back, taking notes like he was somewhere far duller than a war college, sat the only human in the room, brown hair, unbothered posture, eyes that tracked everything and gave nothing back. They called him the Quiet One. Vex 9 would later decide that had been the first mistake. When the instructor asked for volunteers to demonstrate pack-hunting tactics, 10 hands went up before he'd finished the sentence. Throck first, a Bruthan built like a demolition charge, already naming himself pack leader. Razor the Corvan fell in beside him, old scars mapping older fights. The twins, Kalar and Valor, synced without a glance between them. Sledge the Gorvak, built to survive vacuum. 3 Xylorans, Spike, Blade, Edge, moving like one animal with 6 legs. 2 more Bruthans, Crush and Pummel. And Branch, the Dendrite, bark-skinned and silent. 10 against 1 was standard. What wasn't standard was the boy in the back row raising his hand and asking to take the other side. The room laughed. Throck laughed loudest. Vex 9 asked Marcus twice whether he understood the terms, and twice Marcus said he did, flat as a man confirming a homework assignment. By the time they reached Combat Platform Alpha, credits were already changing hands in the gallery. At odds nobody bothered whispering 50 to 1 against the human. Vex 9 gave the signal. Throck came in first, all 400 pounds of him, and Marcus wasn't where he'd been standing anymore, redirecting the charge into the barrier wall hard enough to ring it like struck metal. 1. The twins tried to link. Telepathy wants stillness, and an elbow to the solar plexus is very good at removing stillness. 2, 3. Razor swung all 4 arms at once. Marcus caught 2 of them and used the Corvan's own weight to fold him backward onto the deck, cracking a shell built to shrug off energy fire. 4. Sledge circled, reading the fight before he'd commit, and it didn't matter, because Marcus already knew exactly where a Gorvak's nervous system narrowed to a single point below the 3rd rib, a fact buried so deep in xenobiology texts most Gorvaks never learned it about themselves. 5. The Xylorans came as a triangle. Marcus turned Spike into a projectile against Blade, then shut Edge's crystal matrix down with a strike precise enough to look almost gentle. 8. Crush and Pummel tried to finish it together, low-high, textbook. Marcus spun Crush by the ankle into Pummel's charging path and put them both into the barrier in one collision. Branch came last, thorns cutting the air, and folded like old timber when Marcus found the seam where Branch met trunk. 3 minutes, 47 seconds. 10 bodies on the deck, breathing, humiliated, alive. Marcus stood at the center without a mark on him and asked, quite politely, whether he should help carry anyone to medical. That was the moment Vex 9 first understood he had no real idea what a human being was. By morning the footage, grainy, illegal, inevitable, had reached 17 news networks, and Admiral Korath was sitting behind Vex 9's own desk with an expression that could have frozen a sun. The instructor's report sat between them, useless. Marcus's file hovered in hololight beside it. Combat scores average, strength in the bottom 5th of his class, speed numbers that should have gotten him eliminated by any single one of yesterday's opponents. Explain the discrepancy, Korath said. Marcus didn't flinch. Those numbers measure strength alone, sir. Combat isn't fought alone. A Bruthan is stronger than me, but strength without judgment is just mass looking for something to hit. A Corvan has more arms, which means more joints to break. A Gorvak survives vacuum, but his nerves still have to fire. You studied their physiology, specifically to defeat them. I study everyone's physiology, sir. It seemed sensible. The next question was the one Vex 9 had been circling, since he watched a boy dismantle 10 trained warriors and walk away unbothered. That strike you used on the Gorvak isn't taught anywhere in this academy's curriculum, Vex 9 said. Where does a schoolboy learn it? Something shifted behind Marcus's eyes, not pride, not shame, something closer to resignation. School, sir. On Earth we cross-train. Striking from boxing, throws from judo, joint locks from a dozen traditions nobody outside our system has heard of. We've done it for centuries. For sport, Korath said. It wasn't really a question. Sir. Marcus's hands, folded until now, came apart and settled flat on his knees, like he needed somewhere to put them for what came next. We didn't build these systems to entertain each other. Every technique I used yesterday exists because some human somewhere needed to stop another human who was already trying to kill them. Boxing, wrestling, blade work, none of it came from a training ground first. It came from people who didn't survive, teaching people who did. Nobody spoke. The environmental hum filled the office. Korath's scales, silver a moment before, slid into deep amber, then purple, a shade Vex 9 recognized after 3 decades beside the man as something close to dread. How many combat systems exist on your world? Hundreds, sir. Thousands counting regional variants. We've spent generations combining what worked and discarding what didn't. Marcus held the admiral's stare without apology. Most adult humans carry at least basic training. Many carry far more. Earth was never a gentle place to grow up in. Korath asked it plainly then. Working for someone, Cadet Kane, military, intelligence, anyone outside this academy? No, sir. An infiltrator, placed to test us. No, sir. I'm actually below average by our standards. There are cadets on this campus who'd have closed that fight in half the time. The Admiral said nothing for a long moment. Then he stood, and the office felt smaller for it. You'll remain on Academy grounds pending further review. At the door he stopped and looked back, not at Marcus, but at Vex 9. Find out what else we don't know, all of it. Every human file, cross-referenced by tomorrow. Vex 9 spent that night alone on Combat Platform Alpha, walking the impact craters 10 alien warriors had left behind in 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Through the gallery glass, he could see human cadets still filing to evening classes, trading jokes with squadmates, carrying datapads like nothing in the galaxy had shifted under their feet. He didn't believe that anymore. Back in his office, he opened Marcus's record, then beside it opened a second file, a third, a fourth, every human cadet currently enrolled, and began requesting each one's full combat history, one name at a time, until the queue ran 47 deep, and the office lights were the only ones still burning in that wing of the academy.